Hello everybody, I am in Rock Island, Illinois at a missing and murdered Indigenous women's event hosted by Sage Sisters of Solidarity. I am going to turn the camera around right now so we can see what's going on.
And we thank our speakers for coming up and sharing, the work that they do and their stories. And so again, we really thank you for coming up here and speaking. So again, for myself, it was, Rita Popaki who kind of opened my eyes to this issue. And then, as years had passed by, I have a radio show at the University of Iowa, and I had done a story about a girl who had gone missing in Fargo. And again, it was a young Native woman who, kind of went disappearing. She had was befriended by some neighbors, and they had taken her and took her baby from her and left her. And then there was another issue. There was another girl who had gone missing in by the Bakken oil fields up in North Dakota, and that kind of again pushed my interest and my want to kind of do some research and look into these stories and these issues. And what I come to find was that a lot of things were happening up in Canada. A lot of the attention, a lot of the awareness, a lot of the advocacy was huge up in Canada, because this was an issue that is very happens up there quite a bit. And so upon doing my research and looking into some of these stories, I found that there was not a lot going on here in the United States, and it kind of bothered me. I was really looking for an answer, numbers, statistics, anything, and there really wasn't nothing there. And so I kind of was disturbed by that, and so I talked about it a lot on my show throughout the semester, and tried to raise as much awareness as possible for this issue. And it was kind of eye-opening to find out that there was a lot of Native people who go missing. It's not just here in the Midwest. There's a lot happening down in the Southwest. There's a lot happening around these oil fields. If you're not familiar with man camps, that's where a lot of these stories and issues come from, because along with these pipelines, they come these man camps. And in these man camps, they don't really do a thorough background check on the people that they employ. And so you have just a cesspool of all kinds of individuals from all over the place. And so there's some really good movies and documentaries out there that kind of touch on that. And so it's not just these small communities and these small towns. There's man camps actually in this country where this type of stuff is rampant. And so with that, I want to introduce our third speaker, someone who I look to for a lot. She's very passionate about this subject, and she works at the Meskwaki Victim Services. And so I want to introduce Dara Jefferson.
Hi, my name is Dara Jefferson. I'm a victim advocate with Meskwaki Victim Services out of Tama, Iowa. So I work with the Meskwaki Nation. I am Northern Arapaho in Meskwaki, originally from Wind River Indian Reservation in Wyoming. I've been a domestic violence and sexual assault advocate for about 6 years, working-wise. Sometimes I swear I feel like I've been doing this my whole life. I remember as a little girl, keeping my sister's bruises a secret because she didn't want my parents to know, what her boyfriend was doing to her. And I can recall what my name sounds like being cut off as she was calling for me from being choked. So I kind of been doing this for a long time. That's probably one of the main reasons why I do it. So when I think of missing and murdered Indigenous women, I think about the people that I work with, the men, women, and children that come through my office every day. All of the stories of violence that I've heard, women being sexually assaulted, sexual abuse throughout their lifetime, violence inflicted on them by their partners, their parents, their brothers, their sisters. So they come through my doors and I get to hear their stories. So it just reminds me of how close they were to becoming missing and murdered Indigenous people as well. With how close they were to getting their life choked out of them or being left for dead. I had a lady come through my office a few years ago, and she told me about how she was left for dead. She was beaten unconscious and left for days. She laid there for about 3 days before she finally got up and made her way to the hospital. And another one was thrown against the wall, and she was left for hours, and when she woke up, her abuser was sitting there waiting for her to make him supper. So it was normal for her to go through this daily. I've heard numerous stories over the years. I've sat next to hospital beds waiting for people to wake up. I've moved people into hotel rooms as they're trying to get away from people, their abusers, usually. I've sat in vans next to them as they cried and they told me their story about how they didn't know what else to do, they don't know how to get away. I've sat in court cases where strangulation happened, and I had to listen to expert witnesses defend this woman and try to prove that this happened and why that man should go to prison. The only difference between my survivors and these missing and murdered Indigenous women is that my survivors were alive to tell me about it, and they're alive to tell their story. But how soon and when will they become missing and murdered? If they don't get the help they need or the support they're looking for, how soon will it be before they're another name on a poster or a picture that we carry? I think it's sad how little attention we get for our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And not only how little attention, but how little effort is given to these cases. I remember in 1997, I was 15 years old. I had an uncle go missing. That same year, another white lady from town went missing. And the FBI sent 25 agents and assigned 25 agents to her case. You know how many agents they assigned to my uncle? 2. That's how little effort we get. That's how little effort we've always gotten. And that's, to me, I think that's what injustice looks like. So Dawson mentioned Rita Papaki. She's been missing for 3 years. And I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't think about her. In our community, we have red ribbons wrapped around trees. So every time I see that, I think about her. In my office, I hang a bunch of missing and murdered Indigenous women posters and bandanas like this. And so every time I go to work, I think about her. I keep her mom's phone number by my office phone. You know, wait for that day that I actually have news for her, other than an invite to another rally or another event, to honor her daughter that's missing. I think about her family often, and I pray for them, just like I do for my survivors. I think it's sad what our statistics say about Indigenous women. 84% experience violence. 2 years ago, for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I did a survey online, and I had 100 people answer, and I took away the ones that weren't from our community, and the ones that were left, 93% said they experienced domestic violence in one way or another. So that's another reason why I do this work, to try to help these people from becoming missing and murdered, to help them, if that's what they choose, to leave their abuser, to help them find different lives, to help them find the strength and courage to tell their story. So I appreciate the invite here today. And I think coming up is some of Rita's family, so please give them the respect that they deserve. And think of them often when you think about, or when you hear about missing and murdered Indigenous women. Please remember their names, because they're still out there somewhere, and we're waiting for them still. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dara. Again, you know, one of the things to take away from that was, you know, it's not always just random strangers who are doing these things. It's, you know, people we know, relationships. Those are things that you got to pay attention to and look out for, and reach out to those who you think might be, you know, going through some stuff. You know, it's important that we kind of find out and keep an eye on those things, because it's not always just random strangers picking up people walking down the road. You know, these are people who we know, and you know, we see our loved ones in these situations, and so we got to keep an eye out for them, and like I said, you know, take care of each other and watch out for each other. She had talked about Rita Papaki, you know, and she's been missing for a while, and we're very fortunate to have her family here to come up and talk and share that experience with you. So I want you guys to give a warm welcome to one of them family members who's gonna come up and share that with you. So again, we want to give a warm welcome to Rita's mother, Iris Roberts.
Hello. I was invited to come and attend this, but I didn't know I was going to be asked to speak. But yeah, my daughter will be missing 4 years on January 16. 19, it'll be 4 years. And she had kids. She had 2 daughters and 2 sons. The girl is 23, and she would have been a grandma, little boy. She has a 15-year-old boy, 13-year-old daughter, and a 11-year-old son. And there isn't a day that goes by that we don't think about her. That's all we can do is pray and hope that one of these days that she'll come home or she'll be found. And that's all we want is for her to be found so we can have closure. And when we first reported it, they really didn't do much. I mean, there was newspapers and a news channel. But like Dara said, they said the FBI were working on it and they came out and talked to us, but to me it doesn't seem like they're really working on it. Even though they say, yeah, we're working on it, we're doing everything that we can. But I get so mad because, I know I shouldn't be like this, but when I think about it, if it was somebody else, a white girl, they'd have people searching and probably, like she said, have a bunch of FBI guys looking for her. And it's so hard because we don't really know what happened to her. And like I said, I just keep hoping and praying that she'll be found, because there's all kinds of speculations. Some of the cops told me that, well, we heard that she's down in New Mexico, she took off on her own. And then some people say that she might have been abducted, she's being held hostage. But yeah, I mean, all my family just goes through wondering, and my sons are really, it affected them deeply that they don't know what happened to their sister. So that's all I guess I can say, is that it's real hard not knowing where she might be, where she is. And like I said, there's not a day that goes by that we all think about her and just hope and pray that, no, she'll be found or she'll come home. And I guess that's it for now. And I'm glad they asked me to come, and I've been trying to go to all these marches advocating for missing women. So, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Iris. Again, it's very difficult, this issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And it really does, like I said before, researching this, researching this issue and this topic, you really don't get a lot of coverage. A lot of the things that I find right now are just internet articles. There isn't no big media. There's no media blitz. Again, I use the example of the girl who just went missing now. It's all over the place. There's news, and I mean, there's just a lot happening for that situation. And again, Native people, Indigenous women, in that whole situation. Again, it just gets blown over, and there's no real, it's always independent. It's always people, Native people, who have to go do this stuff their own selves. It's up to us to go out and find our own people and use these resources. For example, up in the North Dakota area, where that last girl went missing, her brother's the one who's setting up all these search parties and search camps and putting it out on social media for help, and they don't get no help. I believe the last time I had seen something that he posted was, there was 2 people there, and he had been, doing things like setting up a camp for, and inviting people to come up and help look for his sister, and that's him doing it. There's nobody behind him helping him. So this issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women is something that we need you guys' help. We need your guys' help to go out and talk to people and let people know that this is what's happening to Native communities, Indigenous communities. And so, again, talk to your loved ones and your relatives at home and let them know what's happening. Again, I want to introduce our 4th and final speaker. I had a privilege of meeting her and following her. She was creating a documentary. She's a filmmaker, advocate, a speaker, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say. So put your hands together for Vanessa McNeil.
Good morning. So thank you for being here. My name is Vanessa McNeil, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. I just finished production on a documentary about sex trafficking in Iowa because it absolutely happens here. I'm a national speaker, and I'm also a survivor of sexual violence. So this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and although I'm not a part of the Native community, I feel really honored to be able to come speak here. I also stand here really aware of the fact that there's so much that I still need to know about Native communities, but I know enough about sex trafficking and human trafficking to know that everything that industry is about encompasses the vulnerabilities and the lack of media attention and the lack of truly care that we have for them. So I want to talk, my area of expertise is truly around sex trafficking and human trafficking. So I want to talk about that and shine a light on that and truly just stand here as an American woman and ask all of you why, first of all, why there aren't more people here. I want to ask all of us to challenge each other as to why the young woman who just went missing a couple days ago, Molly, on the Iowa side already has national news coverage. She was on ABC News. She's already on Nancy Grace, and she absolutely deserves that coverage. We should be searching long and hard for that young woman, but she's a white woman, and that would never happen, and that has not happened for Native communities. Why aren't we upset about that? Why aren't we seeking to change that? So I want to get into just information just to educate you all a little bit about sex trafficking. Sex trafficking happens in Illinois. It happens in Iowa. If it happens in Iowa, you have to know that it's happening every single other place around the world. We're not immune from it. Just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Sex trafficking is a form of modern day slavery where people are being bought and sold for sex against their will. And that exchange happens for something of value. And that doesn't have to just be money. That could be drugs. That could be a place to stay. That could be for other people to purchase. I think that we have very narrow views about what that exchange look like. But I know women through the documentary that I'm working on. One of the women that I work with, she has been purchased from $5,000 upward. The same woman was raped 56 times in less than a day by 56 different men. And her trafficker was able to make $60,000 from those rapes. Yeah, we should be really upset about that. And that's just one woman, that's one story. And I want to talk a little bit about recruitment. So the traffickers are, they could be people that are from here, not from here, but they seek out vulnerabilities, whether that be through age, whether that be through the internet, whether that be through homeless people or just Native communities. They are very mechanical in the way they lure people in. And they beat their victims, they can starve their victims. There's so many things that they do to keep them under their control. And there's so many people about, why don't they run away? Why don't they leave? They can't. They don't have a choice. And I can't think of a better community that traffickers can take advantage of more than Native communities, because we've heard countless speakers talk about nobody is looking for these people, and if they know that nobody's looking for them outside of family members in their inner communities, why wouldn't they want to exploit them? And in regards to recruitment, I also want to mention the fact, so my documentary focuses on buyers. So we talk a lot about traffickers and the people that might take victims, that might take these people away from their families, but we don't talk about the people that are purchasing them. It's almost like an afterthought. Traffickers are horrible, they're inhumane, they do all these horrible things, but there are so many people lining at the door to rape people, and we don't talk about them. And who are these people? There's not a lot of studies done about buyers, but what we know from a study from Breaking Free in Minnesota, the average buyer profile is a 30 to 40-year-old white man who is married, who has a college educated, has a job, and they if they're caught, they didn't have a prior criminal conviction. So what that means that these people aren't on our radars. They're people that are bankers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're people with status, they're people most importantly with disposable income, because these people pay a lot for other people. I work with so many victims that talk about how they were purchased, the people that purchased them, that they have been taken to these people's houses, and they're in their living rooms with pictures of the man's family and his kids on the walls. So I think that we've really gotten away from talking about not only sex trafficking, indigenous communities, but the people that are fueling this demand and this creation for this industry to thrive and happen. Sex trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar global industry that seems to not be stopping. And like I said before, I want to reiterate, why wouldn't they want to take advantage of a community that we seem to not care about at all? We have so much work to do in order to educate all of us about this topic, but I feel really ashamed as an American woman to hear these stories and not feel like anyone is really doing anything about it. Statistics are great because they give us context into the problem, but research has to be funded, and it's not being funded for this community. Why aren't we upset about that? Why aren't we upset that 2 federal agents came to investigate this case, and there are so many more on other cases? I don't know what the answer is. I think that we maybe just need to, at the very minimum, care more. And it's not to say that the people that are missing are being sex trafficked, because I don't know that, but I just know that this would be a really good population to be able to do that for. And sex trafficking doesn't discriminate based on age. There are people that are born into sex trafficking. There are people that are being sold from infancy onward to adulthood. So I think that we just have to open our eyes to that, and really, after we leave here today, question our sense of care for this community and the things that we need to do with our power about it. So thanks for listening.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Again, this is a pretty tough topic to talk about, and as many of these events that I go to and speak at, it doesn't get any easier. It's always very emotional for me. And I always get to thinking about what I could do and how can I help. But there's a lot of information out there. If you are new to this issue, there's so many different sites, and all of us here always are sharing things. So definitely, if you want to learn more about this, that's kind of the only way. There's also Native. Can't remember the site, but they got a lot of information on there. Native American Indian Women Resource Center, I believe it's called, and they got a lot of stuff on there, events and statistics and ways you can help and get involved. Also, Indigenous Iowa, we try to do as much as we can over on the Iowa side. Sage Sisters, they be doing a lot too. So you can check us all out on social media and see what we have going on. Anybody else want to come up and speak? Again, here's Regina.
Well, I know this has been such a very, very emotional afternoon or day, and didn't really plan it this way, but it does touch our heart, does touch a lot within us, and that, listening to the speakers that we have here and the experiences that they have shared with you, is so emotional, so deep, and it does make you want to go out there and do something. And I hope every one of you have learned a lot about the information given today, and that you make a sincere effort in bringing this awareness out to your friends, your family, the public, schools, places that you work at. Like this does not stop at, just here. We got to spread that news, got to spread the how we can help, what we can do. And so I hope that you do that. I hope that's one thing that you can take away from this, And, and hopefully it doesn't affect you personally. And that we pray and continue to keep these women and children or men that are missing, continue to pray for their return back to their families. Keep that in your hearts too. I think we're down toward the end, right? We do have friends here from Bold, Iowa, and if they want to share what's going on in their world over there, I know there's important issues other than, well, everything is really important. So, Christine, are you going to talk? Okay, Christine Nobis from Bold, Iowa, and Indigenous Iowa. Thank you.
Hi. I just started working for Bold, Iowa a few weeks ago. So it's quite fitting that I'm here to speak about the march that we have planned from September 1st to the 8th. I'll get to that in a second. I'm actually here representing Seeding Sovereignty today. I've been sharing this live stream out to multiple platforms, and I think we're up to about 6,000 or 7,000 views now. So I'm really happy about that. We might not have a lot of people here represented physically, but we have thousands and thousands of people out there that are very concerned about this issue, and that fills my heart right now with a lot of gratitude. So thank you to FB World for paying attention. I wanted to talk about an important project that's being done in Lethbridge, Alberta. There's a national missing and murdered Indigenous women database that's being developed right now. And I'm forgetting the lead on that. It's for her PhD dissertation that she's doing this work, actually. I think you can go to mmw.org, I believe, to find out more information on this. But it's the most comprehensive database that we have yet with all of this information. And I've been working with another person that's also working on this project, Jenny Monet, who's a journalist, and talking about different data infrastructure that needs to be added to it, like ways of researching, not just via geography, not just ethnicity of type of assaultant, but there's many different issues that need to be looked into. And so this is a really powerful tool that's going to be of great use to us. It was actually, I think they did some work on this on NPR. I'm not really sure where to search for that, but if you can find that, that'd be great. The other thing I wanted to mention was the National Council of the American Indian, NCAI, and the Native American, or is it the National American Indian Resource Center. These are great places as well for information on this issue. The American Indian National Resource Center, they've done a lot of work on VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act, which is a key issue here to talk about. When they instituted this act, they forgot to add that Native American women experience sexual and physical abuse at a rate that is unheard of. We are in a crisis situation. We have been in a crisis situation since the beginning, because the best way to colonize the land is to also take the women out of the situation, to abuse the women, by taking the women, you take the land as well. And so the land and the body, they go hand in hand. And this is the issue that we've been dealing with at Seeding Sovereignty. I've done a lot of writing on this, but this is why the Violence Against Women Act was, how would I say, they were lacking. So in 2013, they instituted some more laws to the bill to address our special situations, but guess what? We still fall in a very gray area when it comes to the law. When it comes to jurisdiction, there's always a fight over who gets to, or who has to, let me put it this way, who has to take care of the issue. Is it the nation itself, the tribal nation? Is it the federal government, or is it the state government? You know, sometimes it's like, is it U.S. Marshals that have to take care of the situation? Is it local police that have to take care of the situation? It's always this big fight, and sometimes that fight goes on longer than the actual search for the person does. And this isn't just about women. Our men, I've actually spoken to some advocates that do this work day by day by day, and they've actually reported that we have more men missing than women right now. So this is more than just our women. Also, let's think about our children. The Amber Alert system was not instituted on our reservations until 2016 by John McCain. It's called the McCain Act. We have a ridiculous amount of missing children in this nation, Indigenous children, and that's another issue that needs to be brought to the forefront as well. So I sometimes like to call it missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, which is a term I got from Lissa Yellowhammer, an advocate of our missing and murdered Indigenous people. And I just think that's really important to remember as we move forward in this, that Indigenous people are still considered an object, still considered a piece of resistance to the real estate of America. This country was founded upon that premise. And so, you know, it might not be obvious in mainstream settler society that, like, we are still an issue, but it's still a subconscious thing. And frankly, it's not even a subconscious thing to our government, because if they really cared, this issue would not be happening. So please keep up all the good work. I'm so honored to be here right now with Sage Sisters. They do amazing work. I am really touched that Rita's mother spoke, and thank you. I really appreciate you going up to speak, because I've been at many of these events and seen relatives speak about their missing loved ones, and I know this is not easy. And to Dawson Davenport for emceeing, and everybody that's here to support this issue. I just want to say thank you again and hand it over to Regina. The Elder and the March. How could I forget the March? Okay, sorry, Ed. So I got all riled up about MMIW. It's a really scary and emotional issue. So from September 1st to the 8th, Bold, Iowa and Indigenous Iowa are hosting a march from Des Moines, Iowa to Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's an 8-day march, and it's a march that is focused on bringing attention to the issue of the Dakota Access Pipeline and the fact that the Iowa Utilities Board abused the process of eminent domain to take landowners' land for the construction of this pipeline, and also the lack of a proper environmental impact survey. However, along with this march, we will be discussing the fact that Iowa is the most biologically transformed state in the country, which means that we have 750 polluted waterways. We are the #1 contributor to the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. 90% of our land is given over to agriculture. And another big issue, which coincides with what we're talking about here today, is man camps. And how when man camps, which are, construction or camps where men go that are constructing pipelines and other type of infrastructure go to stay in rural communities, how they end up thoroughly affecting the communities around them because they increase rates of rape, murder, missing people, all of the bad, scary things that happen. So this is something that is happening. If you'd like to know more, please go to boldiowa.com for more information, and or please go speak to Ed Fallon or myself. We really want to coalesce and bring unity to this whole entire community here. We want everybody to be working together so that we can make a difference with both our land sovereignty and our body sovereignty.
Wow. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you. As we wind down here, I just want to thank everybody here that has shared their stories, shared their experiences, shared their works, and continuing that effort, and we want to continue supporting that too. I hope you continue to support the work that we do and other good works in the community. I know we'll probably have another rally, maybe in the future sometime. I mean, this is not going to end. We're going to keep this going. So please, thank you. Check out our Sage Sisters Facebook page, and we will post information on that in future events. Like I said, this is we're not going to end our work here. It's going to continue going, and we want to pray that those who are missing come home and they be found also. And so again, thank you for coming. Josie, you have any last words? Or okay, Larry Lockwood here.
My name is Larry Lockwood. I'm a member of the Oregon Cheyenne tribe. And before we conclude,
Hi everybody, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to honor all these people that are missing and murdered, and I don't even know what to say. I get really emotional when we do these particular events, especially when I see the relatives speak, because I can't imagine what they're going through. So thank you so much. My name is Christine Nobis. I'm with Seeding Sovereignty. I'm a decolonizer, and I'm one person, but I'm not going to quit.